共建“一带一路”，为世界经济增长开辟了新空间。
China's new Silk Road has been touted as one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects ever conceived, one that will dramatically change the landscape of global trade.
It's the bigger strategic benefits. As China's dollars continue to flow, as China's concrete continues to pour, China's influence continues to increase.
China, a superpower country, is striving to rule the world above another country. Chinese effort to take over the world is manifested through aggressive projects worldwide. The Belt and Road Initiative projects of China is intended Chinese influence and power to flourish across the globe. China is aggressively aiming to dominate the world through policies that set the trap for developing countries like Djibouti to easily fall and exploiting these countries' position and resources.
共建“一带一路”，为世界经济增长开辟了新空间。
Suspicions abound that China does not care about development but about increasing its global influence.
China peddles corrupt infrastructure deals in exchange for political influence.
It is a debt trap, a means to lure developing nations into borrowing more than they can afford. Once they are buried under this debt, you enslave them by seizing strategic assets as collateral.
Chinese desire to take over the world is accompanied by their relentless effort to cover up their vulnerability as a global superpower competitor. The Strait of Malacca is a strategic water point through which China relies on their oil supply. More than 70% of Chinese oil passes through this strategic water point. Therefore, China is dependent mainly on this strategic waterway point, which borders Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So if US allies with Singapore to stop the passage of oil to China, China will suffer as a result of this action, and Chinese production will drop by 60%, which is catastrophic to China. Therefore, China feels incredibly vulnerable at this point.
To these ports is through this passage called the Strait of Malacca, which falls within the territorial waters of Indonesia, Malaysia and Singapore. More than 70% of China's petroleum and LNG exports is shipped through this Strait of Malacca. On top of that, 60% of China's trade flows are moved through this strait and the South China Sea. US and India can use their alliance with Singapore to choke this point.
For China to decrease vulnerability at this strategic position, they should provide more alternative choices other than Strait of Malacca, so that if this point is choked, they may use other similar locations, and the Djibouti Gulf of Aden was among the most preferred choices to use. China has immersed Djibouti into deep debt trap, which Djibouti cannot pay back for decades to come. Djibouti is projected to take on public debt worth around 88% of the country's overall 1.72 billion GDP, with China owning the lion's share of it, according to a report published in March by the Center of Global Development. Djibouti too may face the possibility of handing over some key assets to China, as Chinese President Xi Jinping continues to push lending to developing countries more than they can pay back. Policy analysts are sounding bells about the fate of smaller nations biting off more than they can chew, and the strategic possibilities open to China as a result. Some analysts are skeptical that China may use these countries under the debt trap as a hostage to manipulate them to the interest of China, and what reasonably is questionable is the sovereignty of a country under the debt trap of China with no possibility to pay back for decades to come, like Djibouti. Thanks for watching.